This is a review of the Viper 3305V system with a two-way responder, and also I put some accessories along with it. Background as to why I did this is because about a year and a half ago when I installed the first security system into my Jeep, I was looking online for reviews of what to do, how to do it. I didn't find any good reviews or any sort of useful information on how to get it installed, and so would have saved me a lot of time if I had a review like this to look at. So that's why I'm doing it, and also because I was driving at the time a Jeep Wrangler, which is hard to figure out a good security system to put in it because it was a soft top, windows are made of plastic as well as zippers and Velcro, and people love to break into those. Just the fact that people always found a reason to break into it. Even when I left the doors unlocked, people would still slash the windows. I don't think they were really thinking, because they could have easily just unzipped it and not caused any damage, or just open the door, really. But the most recent incident was what prompted me to get a car alarm put in. The guy took his time, went back to the car multiple times with a crowbar, and pretty much took out my entire $50 radio, as well as broke my AC heater, as well as my vents, ruined pretty much all of the dashboard, and left the door open so the light was on, so the battery was dead. So that's what prompted finally installing a security system. So moving on to the security systems, the Viper 3305V is kind of the middle tier model in terms of Viper security systems. There's one that's more expensive. Well, there's a few different types that are more expensive. One has the cell phone app, so you get alerted on your cell phone when somebody breaks in. And also there's a model that has the electric start, so from your keychain you can start your car without even being in your car. I opted to not get those because those weren't what I was looking for. But what I did get was the two-way paging model. So if your alarm goes off, rather than just trying to listen for it out in the parking lot, it also has on the keychain a pager that also starts beeping when your alarm's going off. And it actually is pretty decent. I think it was probably one of the most useful features of this car alarm, because my car has been parked about 2 to 3 blocks away in the city, and it still alerts me when the car warn away happens or the car starts going off the car alarm. I think it helped that the mechanic that installed it put the antenna for the pager all the way up at the very top of the windshield. Yeah, it gets pretty good range. I live on the 4th floor of an apartment complex, and you know, it's pretty reassuring to know that if the car alarm does start going off, rather than letting somebody take a crowbar to the car for the rest of the night, you can run out and call the cops or scare them off, I guess. So that's the first thing. It also comes with a built-in shock sensor, so if somebody's banging really hard right up against where you've mounted the Viper car alarm, which is usually right under the dash, then that will go off. And that also has a sensitivity dial where you can dial it up or down. I had to put it pretty far down because otherwise just bumping the car would, set it off, which is kind of annoying. You don't want it going off too much or it'll blow your battery. So then the accessories that I ended up putting in specifically for the Jeep Wrangler was the dual zone motion sensor. That helps because obviously, especially when the top is off, but even when the top is on, you want people knowing that you have an alarm and not to go any further before the alarm goes off. So the way the sensor works, it has an outer zone, which is called the warn away zone, which if somebody breaks that zone, the car alarm will just start beeping. It won't actually go off, so it's not as annoying as going off, but it will beep just to let the people know not to go any closer, or else it'll go off. And then the second zone is the inner zone. It's the actual alarm zone, which is when it actually sets off if they keep moving towards the car. So that it did initially cause some problems until I was able to get it calibrated correctly, because obviously the warn away zone is wide enough that if you park in a parking lot and a car is parked up right beside you, it'll just start warning away just constantly, just making beeps, which is really annoying. So I ended up dialing it all the way down so that the you had to be right up against the window before it warned away, which is great because then at least in a parking lot it wouldn't get set off unless somebody was leaning up against my car. And then I made the alarm zone just slightly further inside the car, so if they breached the zone by like reaching over into the car or anything like that, then the alarm would go off. So that is easily calibrated also on this device by two little dials on the top. You have to use a screwdriver and screw them in or out to adjust the basically the diameter of the two zones. But that worked well. The next thing that I put on was a hood pin switch. That one is also because unique to Jeep Wranglers, anybody can open the hood just by undoing the latch from the outside of the car, which is terrible if somebody's just going to reach in and try to steal parts of your engine. That's never happened to me, but I could see it happening after all of the break-ins that I've had. It's like the next step probably. So put that on. That one was not very technologically advanced. It's just a pin that's spring-loaded, and when it's compressed by the hood, it doesn't go off, and then when the hood opens, it uncompresses and sets off the alarm. I couldn't see it being useful for any other car other than a Jeep, where there's just no security when it comes to latching the hood and that sort of thing. And then the next thing is a tilt sensor that you could put in any car. Also useful because the stock car alarms don't have it on it, and it'd be really useful to have if somebody starts jacking up your car to steal the tires or to try to steal the catalytic converter or anything like that. Which they do in my neighborhood. This would catch it, and it's advanced enough that it resets every time you park. So every time you activate the alarm, it zeroes it out. So if you're on a slope, then it zeroes it out at that slope. So if somebody jacks the car up from further than that, then it would go off. And we tested that with a car jack, and it worked pretty well as well. So I feel like that's a must-have for any car. And then the last thing is the audio sensor. That one we added, basically if somebody breaks the windshield, or later in the year I put glass windows onto the doors of my Jeep. So if somebody breaks the glass windows, it's very sensitive, much more so than the shock sensor that comes on the Viper car alarm. So it catches the high frequency of glass breaking and goes off for that. And you can test it we tested it out with keys against the glass window, and it worked well. So those are the things that I put on my Jeep's car alarm, and it worked well. Nobody broke into it ever since then. Also, the Viper alarm just has a bright blue blinking light, which I think also just helped to, if a thief sees that on your car, it's not gonna keep it safe in terms of they could still break in, but at least it would deter them. If there's another car on the block that doesn't have a security system, they'll go for that one instead. So that's the main thing about it. And since then, got a new car, a Honda, without any soft top. And the week that I got it, I messed around with the stock car alarm that came with it, and it basically didn't go off for anything. Like, you could get into the car, and not until you started messing around with the ignition and things would the car alarm go off, which is pretty terrible. They could have stolen all your tires and wheels and radio by the time it would go off. So I ended up putting this buying this exact same setup but without the motion sensor, because that's not as necessary for if you have glass and a hard top. So I put everything else on my new car, basically just put it on top of the stock car alarm, so they both would go off, theoretically both go off if somebody breaks in the car, but in reality the Viper is the way more sensitive, so it's really the one that's doing the heavy lifting, and the stock car alarm is just if somebody like tries to mess with the ignition, it'll eventually go off, I guess. But yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's the second time I put this setup in. I got it installed at I guess it's kind of like a mom and pop stereo installation, like local installation shop in my city. I had priced it out with Best Buy. I went to Best Buy, and they were charging like almost double the price that I ended up paying for the local stereo shop to install it, and they did an excellent job. Yeah, no complaints both times that I had them install it. They did it in about an hour or two. So great service. I would recommend, if you have Best Buy in the area and you have money to blow, go for it. But if you have a local shop that's willing to do all this for cheaper, I would definitely go for that instead. And just supporting local businesses. But But yeah, that's my review of this setup. I would recommend it again, especially if you have a Jeep Wrangler. But even with a non-Jeep, like I did with the Honda, it's better than the stock alarms that they have on the cars that basically would only go off in when the car is basically completely stolen. So yeah.